Welcome back to Sunrise as we continue this Friday morning, of course, our discussion about the report that has been tabled by the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistics. Now, to discuss this further, we're now joined in studio by Rev Moss Ntlha from the South African Council of Churches, and also we have Prophet Pastor Mboro from the Incredible Happenings Ministries. Now, remember, at home, of course, you can leave your comments on our Facebook as well as our Twitter pages this morning. Unfortunately, we can't take your calls because we seem to have a technical challenge with our line. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. So earlier on, we had a conversation with Professor David Moss Ntlha from the CRL Commission, sort of like just tabling what the recommendations are of this report that's gone to Parliament. This is following the public hearings that have happened across the country. So now, in response to the South African Council of Churches first, on these recommendations, what is your take on them?
The take is basically that the recommendations, firstly, we commend the CRL for responding to the crisis that's in the country with regard to religion going rogue. However, our view is that a lot of the recommendations to solve that problem actually border on overreach to the degree that the suggested solution is the kind of regulation of faith communities that would locate the final word to arbitrate on the Commission. That in itself suggests that there will be a state control of religion, and that is what a lot of our members are nervous about, that once that power to decide who's legit and who isn't locates in the state, there's bound to be problems with that.
Okay. Well, talking about problems now, Prophet Paseka, you've raised your concern in terms of like you're totally in disagreement. You guys are going to court. You even threatened to go as far as the Constitutional Court in regards to what these recommendations are. What informs that on your part?
First of all, what informed this commission to check churches? You look at number one. What you see people eating grass is not a new thing. Sangomas are doing it. They take trees, imiti, miriana. They use those herbs. Some are very dirty. You go to Joburg, Ilov Street. They are doing that. They give people snake skins. They are doing that. Because this commission is led by Sangomas, because some of them are traditional healers. The very same people, Okobela, that's what they are called. They charge people from 17 to 27,000 for being a Sangoma. There are people, there's a lot, human parts are being done, but there's never been an outcry. People are being cut for the rituals of healing. We've got cultures like Mampondo, they chop their fingers. That is not a problem. Now you look at these pastors. These pastors, I don't know much of whether they're pastors or not, because their operation and this are the same. It shall be judged the same way. That should have sparked that long time ago.
Okay, so they're saying in terms of like the actual practices that these pastors and prophets will be doing, they're not necessarily going to be involved in that, but that there should be a peer review mechanism that should sort of like guide that. Some of the concerns that you're not in agreement with most of the organizations say, I mean, if the situation has gotten to this level, why have, for example, the South African Council of Churches not dealt with some of these prophets and pastors? Are they not your members? How are they not forced to be members? Are there not other organizations that are sort of like part of your organization to deal with these issues? How did we get to the situation?
But you jump what I said. Why? What
okay,
about those Sangomas and all
that?
You now
can we let him
it
answer?
away.
I think because of the principle of freedom of religion, there are a lot of churches that are not part of the Council of Churches. There are a lot of churches from outside of the country, for example, that come in and set up shop and are not part of the council. And so there is no mechanism by which the council can call them out. What has happened is that the council has come out in clear terms to say all of these things go contrary to the Christian faith. But that's about all we can do. We can't stop people from doing those things. Now, what we would recommend would be that there ought to be, in terms of peer review, I think the issue of peer review is an important part of the solution, that there ought to be a way in which there's a self-regulation. But in the way that the CRL is saying it should be done, still locates final power on the CRL to decide that.
Okay.
And with regard to the abuses, our view is that a lot of those abuses really can be dealt with other by means of other legislation.
Okay. How do you think the abuses should be dealt with, and in terms of like this peer review self-regulation by the churches, how do you think the pastors should self-regulate?
You see, faith is very difficult to deal with that, because number one, what is right to you, like my faith doesn't allow me to worship the ancestors or go under the water or to get the powers. But some of these faiths, they do it. They are Christians. And they do they connect to other powers. So in this country, there is a freedom of religion. So people are allowed. Somebody can just wake up and say, I had a dream. My ancestors told me to go and take that tree and eat it and all that. How do you regulate that? The only problem that we have is that we only look at one group.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Only look at those few so-called charismatic pastors. Yet there are others who are doing worse than them. So when you look at the two, if someone is doing something that you feel that, it's not right, why don't you deal with that person?
The report suggesting that anybody who is practicing all the faiths should be registered. We should know who they are, where they operate from, and they should be governed by some law of some sort.
Those facts and what is happening here are two different things. We speak of things and everybody's dodging them. What they claim sparked this are the people giving drugs. I mean, grass.
Well, giving grass, snake, petrol, and all of that.
Sangomas are doing it. Why say churches? Because when you read the news and the TV, it says churches. And this thing are personal. After all that, they will put the face of Mboro. Okay. You see? So, who is not feeding grass, rats, and all those things because it doesn't believe in
so
that?
So you might not be doing that, but are you, as Prophet Mboro, registered? Are you paying tax?
I am registered.
Are you
I am paying tax.
You're paying tax.
Yes. I'm not just
Are you a member of the SACC Council churches? Who are you registered with?
You must bear one thing in mind here. I want to clarify something. Nobody, South African Council of Churches, doesn't represent the views of everybody.
Okay, which body are you registered with? I'm just making which body are you registered with?
You are dodging the facts here.
Okay,
you want me to answer your questions, but you don't answer my questions.
Okay, I'm not being interviewed here. Are you registered with any organization?
Listen, let me tell you something.
Okay.
In what you just said, no, I'll speak. Just like you spoke, I will speak.
Any organization?
This very commission that we are speaking about, that seeks all what you are talking about, they support the pastors who are controlled by the white people somewhere in overseas in their churches. They lied about me going.
We're not members of that.
They lied about me going to heaven. This is a lying thing. This group of liars. Who are they protecting when they say Mboro is putting Christianity to disrepute? He's selling pictures of heaven with 5,000 rands. He's claiming Jesus was with a hot Xhosa woman there. Those are the lies, and they're affecting my character. And this lawsuit that I'm doing, you are going to listen to me.
Okay, we understand your situation, Pastor
So
Mboro.
those are the
lawsuits. Let me get the South African Council of Churches.
They're not protecting anyone.
How do you deal with the bigger issues, which, there's characters like, for example, Pastor Mboro, who has these issues. And then there's the other pastors who feel that actually there needs to be order? Because it looks like the whole thing is disorderly. How do you deal with that as a council of churches?
Yeah, I think, as I said,
They have mistakes themselves.
The issues around the pastors who have gone wrong. There was the pastor who was using doom, for example, on people. And in Limpopo, Emabili, France, the health department in Limpopo took that person to book because there's sufficient health legislation that would find fault with somebody using doom on people. So there is adequate legislation to deal with that. Our appeal would be for those people who are endangering people's lives in whatever way, shape or form, ought to be dealt with through the existing legislation, and it's more than adequate to do that.
Okay, but they're saying this legislation has been in existence, but it hasn't been enforced. And some of the bodies who exist really have been lenient in dealing with the different pastors. And pastors are mushrooming out of everywhere. People can come into the country and start a church, and people's lives can be put in danger, but nothing really happens.
That's
what should
correct.
happen going forward?
I think, if you think about it, to be fair, you could count with your two hands the number of people who have gone rogue and have caused all of this attention to be brought to what actually is happening within the church. It's not as if over 90% of Christian people in the country are doing these things. But when you then figure out a legal solution that will affect everyone, when in fact you are trying to get at the 2% or even less than 1%, I think it is using a sledgehammer to kill a mosquito.
Obviously, when it all started, there was a look into the commercialization of religion, in which is the report says they found that there is commercialization of religion. How do you speak to that as the South African Council of Churches?
Yeah,
Or
I think that the commercialization of religion, if you think about, for example, SACC, there is adequate legislation that ought to bring all of those people who are delinquent with regard to finances and the commercialization of religion, that could be brought to book that way. There are indeed many people, even drugs, that have been found to be changing hands in churches. Again, there's enough drug legislation, anti-drug trafficking legislation we have. However, it's very difficult to say if, for example, Prophet Mboro says that I'm going to sell this
water oil,
and that it has qualities of healing and so on.
Okay, how much do you charge for prayers?
You see, listen, this is the problem with this pastor, this gentleman here. One, the Bible clarifies. Elisha the prophet told Naaman to go and bath, and he was cleansed. You know, there are millions of people in ZCC. Coffee and all that. They've been healed, and this is working. You find these people who can't even heal a headache. You know, they have a problem. I have an 11-year-old child who came to my radio show, KCFM, on Monday to Thursday, 9 o'clock in the evening. This girl had an operation. It was rotten. They did an appendix thing. There was a stone in there.
We don't have a lot of time.
Let me finish this.
You don't have a lot of time.
No. You will listen.
Okay.
You will listen. I'm not going to waste my time here. So that girl, I prayed for her. I sprayed her with a spray that I anointed. I transferred the anointing, and the power of God
how much did you charge
touched her. I didn't charge a thing. Touched her, she was healed. Those things, they are pictures of before and after. You watch that on Soweto TV 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday and 8 o'clock in the evening.
But that's
so you will see. No, wait. Now, you are in a beautiful church of Pastor Musa Sono, ne? Oh, all right, I saw the way you embrace Pastor Ray Makoli. He's living in a 13 million house. There's no issue about that. To build such a beautiful church like Grace and Rhema, there are sponsors from overseas, there are business people who put money. So now we take
offerings. People sow their seed, and a part of that, they are given these anointed items. People, I've got proof. If you want to check this, being honest, come and see what I'm talking about with medical proof. There's a woman in Togoza was on a wheelchair.
We've run out of
she
time.
touched
And
the screen of the TV
yeah.
and she got hit.
Okay.
So if you are there at home and you want to try the power of God, doctors where they cannot, God can. You can come to Prophet Mboro.
So the issue
and
there
he will
was,
pray with you, and it will happen.
He interrupted
in spite
me.
of
I
what
was
he's
saying
They do
that
heal the
if you, I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying Jesus said, freely you received, freely give. So if you then begin to sell that, whether it is for 10 rands or 10,000 rands,
Then you're commercialized.
you are going wrong.